Hello and welcome. Today we're going to discuss the Autodesk Construction Cloud and specifically Autodesk Build. My name's Gareth Spencer and I'm a technical consultant here at Man & Machine. Man & Machine are an Autodesk Construction Cloud elite partner, of which I'm a specialist. So today in this webinar we're going to have a brief overview of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. We're going to look at what Autodesk Build is, but then have a little bit of a deeper dive into Build itself, look at digital ways of working with the latest project information and data, a central source of project information, capturing that project information, managing the health and safety on site, and also looking at commissioning. And at the end, if you guys have asked any questions, I'll try and answer them as best I can. So let's start off with, first of all, I'd like to set the scene a little bit, because one thing that Autodesk have really looked into why this software is useful is our industry has been very fragmented for many years in the construction space. One of the things that has been identified is that we're all sharing information at all times, whether that's the owner, the general contractors, subcontractors, designers, suppliers and so forth. And in fact, most of the companies are utilising many different softwares, from which it's becoming more and more difficult to integrate these softwares, but then also communicate and actually utilise the information you've got. What this in turn does is it doesn't help where we communicate our information. So let's say one person communicates a drawing by email. They then communicate further information by using a file sharing site. They may go on site for a site meeting, for example, and share a hard copy of the drawing. This drawing could be shared multiple times, but also at different revisions. This in case could cause a problem because someone doesn't have the correct data, so not allowing us to work to the right, most up-to-date information, causing problems with the industry. So what Autodesk have done and captured some information here on screen, as you'll see. It's costing a lot of the industry a lot of time, money and resource to correct this. We spend up to 14 hours a week trying to capture and find information where we're wasting data and time. Also, as part of this, we're doing a lot of rework because the information provided was poor or it was communicated in the wrong way. Thus in turn, all this information, this rework, is actually costing businesses a lot of time and money to correct on projects. This is where the Autodesk Construction Cloud comes in, where Autodesk have taken a profile of applications and built them into the unified application, starting out from inception all the way through design, planning, manufacturing, into build, and then passing over into operations to continue the life cycle of a project. The software allows us to utilise the capabilities and functionality of all these different applications where it sits on top of a common data realm or data storage area. This has allowed us to join all the parties who may work on a project together in one single location to access the most up-to-date drawings, models, information in one location and capture all the data associated to the project. So one of the key things to point out here is, as I've just mentioned, they have a core product as part of this which sits on the bottom of all the other applications. This is Autodesk Docs. What Autodesk Docs does is allow us to store our project information in one location so all parties can access that information. On top of that, we have other products such as Autodesk Build, Takeoff and BIM Collaborate. What this allows us to do is pick the functionality we need to utilise the tools we have. Because the Autodesk Construction Cloud has originated from other applications such as PlanGrid and BIM 360, it's important to note here that some of the products have established further from what they originally set out as. So just here on the left hand side you'll see at the top BIM 360 Design become BIM Collaborate Pro, BIM 360 Coordinate became BIM Collaborate, but you can access both Design and Coordinate through both Collaborate and Collaborate Pro. BIM 360 Build, Cost and PlanGrid became BIM 360. Autodesk Build. Autodesk's docs evolved from BIM 360 docs, and Autodesk Takeoff is a new product that was released most recently. So just to highlight, Autodesk Build is something we're going to look at today, but Autodesk Build gives us a lot of applications to help us when we're working either on site or in the field or even through the job site. It gives us the ability to look at things like project management, cost, quality, safety, and even closing out the project at the end. It has a number of functionality to allow us to utilise this whether we're working through a web browser or on site with a tablet or mobile phone through the app itself. On top of that, we have Autodesk Docs. For when you purchase an Autodesk Build license, you get access to Docs automatically. Docs allows us to save all our documentation such as drawings, models, data in one location as we need. We can then look at the version history and also look at approval processes and workflows within the system, allowing us to share information with the rest of the design team members and other people outside. So now let's jump into the product and have a look. As you'll see here, I'm currently in a project. In this project, it's been set up to allow us to access all our information. Here I'm an administrator, so I can see and access all my data. If you're just a user, there's certain information you may not be able to access or display. First of all, it's important to point out, if you look at the top left hand side here, this is our product selector. And if we've assigned the specific products on this project, the users will be able to access those based on their subscription. So for example, if I just switch over to the Docs environment in here, you will see I can now access all the information associated to where it's stored in the common data environment. As you'll see, this is set up where we have work in progress for those who are working on a project, such as the architect, structural engineer, civil engineer, MEP engineer, and so forth. If I just switch in, for example, to the architecture folder, you'll see there's a number of drawings here, whether it's in PDF or DWG. There's also a Revit file. We can access and view this information directly from here. For those of us who may not be creating the information, you will see to be able to apply permissions to this specific folder structure. If I just go in and show you this. So you'll see here, some people will have administration rights, others will have user access. So for example here, those people above may be administrators who can have access to all areas. But then below you'll see we have some permissions set for the architect, for the architectural technician, and also the company itself. Based around this, the person or persons will have access to specific information, whether that's view only, editable, or full management access where they can change information within the system. If we were to change this or remove this, this may limit access they may have. As you will see, because it's the architecture folder, only the architect can currently access this information. But if we switch over, for example, to the shared area, you'll see in here, this time round, for example, both the architect, the civil engineer, the contractor, the project manager, and the structural engineer can access this information. And their permission rights are slightly changed. They have the ability to view, download, publish markups, and upload files. So this is where all information could be stored during the development of the design phases and even into construction, allowing design teams to share information around with each other so they can design the actual structure as they need to, but also coordinate the information correctly to ensure less or no errors occur on site. You'll see here we have the ability to view the status of the files. For example, in this case here, all the files have been issued for approval and approved. If we switch back to, for example, the architectural area, you'll see here there's actually a file that's been rejected. In this case, there must be an issue with the drawing, or further comments and markups have been applied for the user to go back and correct. Now, because the Autodesk Construction Cloud interacts with Autodesk products such as AutoCAD and Revit, they can easily access the information directly from here on the desktop to edit the files. This allows us to edit the files quite quickly in one location and allow us to keep the information stored in one area, but then those who may not have the application stored on their desktop can access the information and view it directly in the cloud, making it easier for them who may not have the application and not having them have to install it. For example, if I just click on this Revit model, you'll see it'll go into the view, and actually I'll be able to now view the cloud model. Now you can see here this is just showing me a block shape. I'm just going to switch back to the master view, which you'll see it's demonstrating the information. So this allows us as designers, for example, to view the information we're creating. Now if we switch out of docs and go into our build environment, what you'll see in here, it looks very similar, and we can still access our files area. So you'll see here, if I click on the files, I can still access this information. Now I'm just using the web browser right now, but I'll be able to access this information directly through my mobile app, which could be on my mobile phone or my tablet. To do this, I'll need to make sure that I download all the relevant information that I need to my tablet or phone to access Onsite. I can then capture any further data whilst on site and then push it back if I don't have cellular or Wi-Fi access whilst in the field. This can be done once I get back to the office, either on site or at the company office. Now what we can do as well, and this is a useful feature to allow us to access our information. If we're going to share, let's say, a set of packages of work, so as you'll see here, I've shared some general arrangement drawings into the sheets area. This allows us to share packages of work with specific people on site so they can access those drawings whilst in the field. Let's say they want to access the reflective ceiling plan here. I can simply click on that file and then view it in the cloud. This file is just a PDF, so you'll be able to see all the information that you require. So let's say I want to zoom in and just check the information associated in the title block. I can do so by using the zoom area. I have this mini map here to allow me to view information. Now I can also utilize the tools and functionality within here. So let's say I've noticed something in here. Let's go down to one of the rooms. There's something not quite right. For example here, I've noticed there's a tag, but it's not actually going to the right space. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a markup on the drawing, and you'll see I'm going to add a simple markup in here. Let's just reduce the text size down. So, unsure of ceiling tag here. And let's ask someone to confirm. Please confirm. So you'll see here I've put a little note in there. Now as part of this I can change the colour, the style, by font, by the border and so forth, whether it's got a fill. And what you'll see as I do this, I can publish this so multiple people can see this, or I can just have it viewable for myself. If I delete it, it will remove the actual markup from the actual drawing. I can also go into here and add links. Let's say, for example, I wanted to link this to another drawing, or an RFI, or a form, or an asset, for example. So let's say if I go into RFIs now, I'm going to pick an RFI that's currently open. Let's say this one here. So if I select it and select Add RFI, you will see it's now included as part of that. What this allows us to do is interlink information within the project and allow us to be able to access that data as well. So if I was to go into the RFI, which I'll do in a second, you will see that this will be actually linked to it. Because we're commenting on the information, it's all captured in the system. If there was an issue on the drawing, we could use the issue functionality to capture that as well, but then also interlink that into different areas within the system. So if I exit the drawing now, you'll see on here we still have the drawings listed and the information was last updated by myself. if the information was captured and further data was added in here or new sheets, the sheet list will just grow. Now, because we're working with this information, everything we capture here is in a digital environment. None of this is paper copies. So let's say we go out to the site, we take photographs. If I come across the left-hand side here, you'll notice in this window, this has allowed us to capture data whilst on site. As you'll see on the 14th of July here, if I just click on this file, a picture was taken of this air conditioning unit. When it takes the photograph, it gives us the ability to, first of all, capture who took the photo, what date and time it was taken. It will automatically give the photo a title. We can add a location where this is within the building because we're using the location functionality within the project. It will also allow us to add tags, but you'll see here this one's got 2 tags which have been added in. It also allows us, if we have the GPS location turned on our mobile device, it will capture that. I'm just going to come out of this one and go to the next one here. So let's say this one, this wall socket. Again, this is a photograph taken whilst out on site. You'll see it was taken a picture by myself and at a certain time. Here's the title. This one hasn't got a location, so let's go in and add one. So hypothetically, we were in Wing B, ground floor, office. Now you can see here, this time, this one has tags, but it's empty. But actually it has some further tags here. Now, because of the AI built into the program, it allows us to capture auto tag information, i.e. it knows it's electrical, it knows it's a socket or outlet, and it also knows there's a wall behind that. So it's capturing some of the data for us and automatically adding it in. If I go to references, again you'll see over here we can add references to further information. So this could be to an asset, it could be to a form or RFI. Let's say we're going to attach it to the same RFI we did before. So I'm going to add that in. So we've captured that information, and you'll see here the due date is the 30th of June, which is in a few days. So we need to make sure we capture that information. Everything we capture, as you'll see in here, there's a number of images, will just continuously grow within the project. We have settings in most of the areas here. For example, we can filter by information. Let's say I want to filter by tags. I want to filter by a number of them in here, and I'm just going to select a few of them. As you'll see, the list will decrease in all the images we've taken. But because it's captured in there, we can see them, whether utilising the mobile device or the web browser. I'm going to go to my RFIs now. So when I request information, I need to capture this in one environment. And what you'll see, if I just go to the settings area and go inside here, we've got a number of things first of all we need to set up. For example, we can set up whom, i.e. by person, by role, or even by organisation, so a company. We can also go into here and state whether they're a creator, a manager, a reviewer, or a coordinator. You will see in here some of these have already been defined. So at the start we have everybody can create, but you'll notice here the architect is only a reviewer. If we come down here, for example, the organisation, contractor, are able to create, manage and review. So we can control this. We can also set what type of review they are. So for example, this first review is a one-step approval process. So we can go through the review process. But if we were to go create, we can create other types. So for example here, let's just type in some text so I can show you. We have a typical review workflow, but also we can have a coordinator with a review as well, which allows us to select specific people to go through this. And we can set this as default if we want to. Now as we create the workflows in here, we can customize this any time as we go through. As you'll see, we can add custom fields, and in this project we currently don't have one. We also have some advanced settings where we have the ability to control whether we reopen an RFI, whether closed ones will be visible, and whether open ones will be visible. Let's switch back in. So I'm going to go back down to this one here, which you'll see if I click on this, it will open up the RFI. So currently, Gareth started this off and it's in review with Alex. As we go further down here, you will see certain information will be added. You can see we've got reference files that have been added in here with specific dates and times. We've also got on the right hand side a log of everything that's been carried out. So anything further was added to this, you will see it be included. Once we've gone through this process, you'll see in here we can answer the actual RFI as answered or rejected. Put in some notes or a response and then it will be closed off. You'll see in here it answered as approved. We could always return this back if required. In this case I'm going to close and distribute, and again we can add some notes. So as we're controlling all the information that we capture during the project, we have the ability to keep it in one location. So for example, all our RFIs will be listed here. We can actually export this out as a little report in PDF or Excel, which gives us all that information that we need to capture during our project. Because we're capturing all this data, it's kept in one location. We can easily share this with the rest of the design team or those that require the information. So let's say we're going on site and we need to capture some information quite quickly. We need to do checklists for commissioning or health and safety whilst we're out on site. So as you'll see here in the forms area, I'm just going to go to the templates. So first of all, you'll see we've got some files already created. We can organise them by folders, or we can have them just listed in here. So for example, we've got a few in here. Let's click on this one. You'll notice on the right hand side, it actually has a PDF in here. So it's intelligent enough to know that if we have PDFs that are created which are editable, we can load them into the system and utilise that editable PDF quite easily. Now we can always use PDFs that are not editable, but this just makes completing them a little bit longer. Alternatively, we could set up our own forms directly in here. So here's an example. If I click on this one, you'll see there's no PDF displayed. I'm just going to go to the top and select Modify. Now as you can see in the screen here, this gives us the ability to create a title, set the type we require. We can also put a description, but then we can add sections as we go along. So you'll see in here the first question here is just what is the project CDE? And we're confirming this by just adding a text response. The second one has been slightly customized, where in this case we're having a download response, a drop-down response, and you can see there's 3 examples. The third we've set out as a yes, no or not applicable, but we could always change this. And you can see here again we're going through the process. So what you'll see when we do this, we can define from a drop-down list which one we want to choose. And then you'll see here at the bottom, this one actually has a signature to ensure that once complete, somebody signs that off. As you'll see as we go along, we can add further things in such as notes and weather information. And what this will do, for example, at a date and time this form is completed, it will capture the weather information. So if I cancel out of this, and let's go and have a look at our templates and how they work. So you'll see in here, I'm going back to my forms area. So to complete or start a new form, we'll go to create form, and you'll see here, let's select the first one. So I'm going to do my COVID screening form. So the form will open up. You'll see on the left hand side, it will specify a date, which we can always change to any specific date. We can set the location and a description. There's currently 3 reviewers. We can attach any reference files and add any notes. Now on the right hand side, you'll see here we have our PDF. Now because I can click in here and edit, it will allow us to add further information in. If I don't have this, I can insert images, put text and even draw on utilising the draw functionality. So project name we can put in here, and we'll call this Cardano Wings. Location, let's say London, and the date. And then we can put in all the relevant information, such as my name here, and company, man and machine. And you'll see we can go through and start completing the information. In this case, I'm just ticking boxes like so. Okay, so it makes it easy for us to go along. Now, hypothetically, we might not be able to complete all of this at once. So what we can do, we can just hit save, and this will be saved as a draft. Which means I can come back to this at a later date and complete the information. So whether this is something I'm completing throughout the day or over a week, I can always come back to the information. If I didn't want to keep this, I could always discard this. If I hit submit, that's when we've completed. So if I just go back to the forms area, you'll see it's created a new form for me at the top of the window and allows me to access that data as I wanted to. So you'll see here, it's the new one I've created. Now I can always go into other forms, or I can create a new one. So let's, for example, if I click on this one here, which was submitted a while ago, I can see that this one was completed. It has all the specific information filled out. It is submitted here. I can copy this and I can make comments and view the activity, but I can't do anything with this now because it's closed. So it allows us to capture that information. So let's say we wanted to capture some data on our site when we're doing things like commissioning. So again, we can go in here and look at our forms. So if we've got a form that's already been created, we can actually select this. So let's say we're carrying out a fire safety check on the project. So you'll see in here, I can go in and again, it's got all the relevant information. So I can go in here, company name, so we'll call this Gareth's Fire Safety. And then put the project title in. So again, we go in here and put in the specific company information or project information and so forth. So we'd go through ticking the relevant boxes, what is relevant and what is not, all the way through the fire safety checks. And as you can see in here, it's got a bit of a comments box we can add in, but again, this is an editable PDF, so it allows us to do that. So once we've done this, we click on the submit, and that form will be then submitted as part of this. So you'll be able to see that information as we work with it. Now let's say, because we're doing our commissioning part, we want to access all our asset information. So if I go over to my asset data, so I'm just going to, I've submitted that, that's fine. Let's go back to the forms area. That is fine, I've saved that, so that's fine. Let's go over here. So when I go into my my assets area, for example, you'll be able to see our asset list. So this works in two ways. We can either manually input the list, or we can utilize the functionality inside the Construction Cloud, for example, to import. And you'll see here, if I just download the sample file just to give you an example, I'm going to open this on my screen now. So what you'll see, we can have our asset list from our client or our owner operator. If we utilize this spreadsheet, it's important to note we cannot delete any of the columns or rows in here because it utilizes them. We can delete this data out of here, for example. So we'd give the asset name or code. We'd look at the category or location which it's going to be. So for example, it's mechanical, it's an air handling unit, and the type. Also a description, we can add in the location, and actually a status. So for example, if it's just been ordered or it's just been delivered on site, we can set that status if required. We can add in a barcode. Now what this allows us to do, for example, when we're on site, we can pop in a barcode onto the element in the project. When I say element, I mean actually the physical, let's say air conditioning unit on site. We can put a barcode on there, scan that, and attach it to that actual asset. So if somebody else comes along and scans it, it will open up the information specifically to that asset. So what we do, we complete all the fields in here and we upload into here. You'll see there is a maximum file size limit of 75 megabytes I actually haven't got over that yet, so I can't tell you whether it's a problem or not. But I'm sure you can upload further things or add further assets at any time. So let's say over here on the left hand side we can set our categories. Now this can be done, for example, if I go into my settings here, we can define that. So you'll see here I've got electrical, I've got my CCTV system, and I can go even further down for my category. We can add in any custom fields where required. You'll see here this is the default one out of the box, but we can create our own system set so it reads the relevant fields that we need to. And also we can set the permissions, i.e. for example administrators have access and can manage all the information, but we might turn around and say certain people want certain rights to access information. So for example, from view, edit, create and full management of the information. So let's go back to assets, and you'll see in here I'm going to go through. So you'll see some of the information has already been captured. I'm going to look at this one here, which has got a code. It doesn't really tell us very much. So I'm going to select this, and you'll see on the right hand side it's got a name. It's actually called Boiler 03. So as this was captured on a project, this name was actually changed during the capture of this information. So originally it said Boiler 3 here. Now it's been given an asset code specifically to match what the client, the owner-operator, wants it to have. It's got a description which tells you what it is. It's telling us the status is acceptance. It's given its category and also the location of where it's found. It's got a barcode because the barcode has been added to it, so it's been scanned so we know where it is. And also it's got the extra reference here to say the asset owner is the estates maintenance team. If I click on the reference, you'll see here once we started to go through the process of installing this, capturing all the data, you'll see there was an image, there was actually an issue raised, and there's actually 2 forms completed, one of which is still the draft and one which was submitted. And we also, you'll see in here, have a log of everything that's been going on as regards to this asset, and the same applies to the others. So this allows us to capture all this data in one location and connect it together with all the different requirements such as RFIs, photos, forms and so forth. And what we can do as well, you'll see in here, we can export this out as a PDF or a CSV file with all the specific information because we're capturing that as we go through. So as you can see, I've given you a bit of an overview of certain things that you've got in here and the certain functionality. I hope you've found that useful.